Hello, everybody. Today we're going to actually discuss two different books, Pontypool Changes Everything and Snow Crash. The reason I want to talk about these two books at the same time, I kind of wanted to talk about both of them individually, but then I kind of realized they're both sort of covering the same ground. So I thought it might be fun to just kind of do a compare and contrast about and discuss what they're actually talking about. So a little bit TMI about me. When I was getting my master's degree, I did my master's thesis on memetics and the spread of memes. And I'm, trust me, the reason I never went on for my doctorate after I got defending my master's thesis, the first words out of my mouth was, "I'm done with school." But that's neither here nor there. But anyway, I want to discuss the concept of memes at first, just because memes can be of two different. Most people think of a meme as like a short video clip or a picture that you show, but they're not really that. Memes are kind of like computer viruses for our brains. They come in, they they replicate to others by language or by visual, sharing, and usually memes are okay. I mean, usually memes are pretty innocuous. One recent one, 6-7. I mean, it doesn't really matter what it means. It's just a quick little meme that kids use today, and they're just repeating it. It'll go away sooner or later. But then there are other memes that can be a little bit more dangerous and a little bit more like a computer virus in that they attempt to alter our behavior, build the wall, hope and change, that kind of stuff. Basically, those are memes designed to gain our support and trust for people that may or may not, or may again have our best interests at heart. So, I really want to discuss these two books in because they both kind of discuss the idea of memes used as computer viruses for human brains. So let's start out with Pontypool Changes Everything by Tony Burgess. Very simple plot. There's a small town outside of Ontario that that sees the spread of a virus that's communicated by language that causes people to not be capable of processing language and causes them to basically it's a zombie novel to be in its simplest terms. And it's just the way they become zombies is not from a physical virus, it's from more of a mimetic virus that infects their brain as like a computer virus would. It causes them to become violent, it causes them to become somewhat somewhat basically somewhat zombie like. They act like zombies that we would expect in a movie. Quick review of this book. I think it's good. I think it's a little bit repetitive in a lot of places. I think that's the point because memes have to be repeated in order to exist. But it becomes a little bit much. It felt like it was a little bit too padded. It's a good book though. I would suggest reading it, but maybe put it lower on your to be read list than some other books. So let's talk about Snow Crash. Snow Crash by Neal Stephenson. It's Snow Crash has a very similar plot, except it's more of a cyberpunk science fiction story, whereas Pontypool was a horror novel. Snow Crash takes place in the near future where there's a character called Hero Protagonist, which is a too cute by half name by Stevenson, but we'll go with it. Who works as a pizza delivery man in real life, but he's kind of like a samurai in the metaverse, the online cyberverse. Um, in the metaverse, there becomes a virus that's spread when people look at basically a screen of static. It hijacks their brain. It causes them to start just talking in gibberish, and doesn't allow them to communicate with others, causes them to go crazy, and slowly spreads that way. Quick review of this book. This is my favorite Neal Stephenson novel. Matter of fact, this is the only Neal Stephenson novel that I have ever actually liked. I highly recommend it. Put it higher on your to be read list. But let's discuss the link between these two books. Both use the basic concept of a language replicated virus, a meme, to hijack the human brain to cause people to become violent and non-communicative, basically become zombies. There's an important thing that I think both these books are getting at. Memes are very powerful. They can become very, very powerful. They can lead to social change, political change. They can do a whole lot. And the way they do this is by getting inside your brain and kind of changing it through repetition. Everybody knows the old saying by, I think it was Hermann Göring, who said, a lie repeated often enough can become the truth. A meme repeated often enough can become reality. And that's something that I think every person really should start looking very closely at. Like I said, a lot of memes are totally innocuous. It doesn't really matter if you look at Dramatic Hamster or anything like that. I mean, those things are pretty innocuous. But when a meme is obviously being used to try and change your behavior, pay attention to it, because that's not so good. It can be used in a lot of ways, and you really shouldn't trust it. But that's just my opinion. We should but I do think, just to state an objective idea, that we should all be conscious of the memes that we're looking at, and we should make sure that we don't do the wrong things with them, because in the wrong hands, they can become very powerful for controlling us, and we don't really want to be controlled. We want to be able to think for ourselves. And one of the problems with a meme that controls us is that it short circuits the ability to discuss nuance in ideas. It doesn't allow for a full discussion. It just becomes a repetition of like a very short statement, usually 3 or 4 words. So just be aware of that. But getting back to the books that I really want to talk about here, let's compare and contrast how Pontypool and Snow Crash achieve their plots. Pontypool doesn't really explain where the virus came from. It doesn't really explain why the meme exists. It just shows the repercussions. I will say there was a movie based on Pontypool called Pontypool, and it's much better than the book. And I think it actually captures the idea of the book a lot better, because it sets itself inside a talk radio station. And setting the actual movie inside a talk radio station underlines the themes a lot better, in that the very thing that they're doing all day is talking, talk. And when a meme comes along that turns people into uncommunicative zombies that only say out like random syllables, that there's a certain thematic relevance between the two, between the setting and the story. But since this review is about the book, I want to remain on the book, since the book does not do that. It just follows a random person as they try and escape this town. My overall view of it is, if I were to give this a number grade, I would say Pontypool Changes Everything is a 6 out of 10, just because it is a relatively novel take on the zombie genre, and it is well written. But like I said, it does feel a little bit padded in some parts. Snow Crash, on the other hand, very definitely read this book. Like I said, it's the only Neal Stephenson book that I actually enjoyed reading. And it was Neal Stephenson before he started writing for critics. There are some authors that write for critics and there are some authors that write for readers. This was Neal Stephenson when he was still writing for readers. And it's a lot of fun. It has a lot of really great ideas in it. It's propulsive in its narrative, and it feels a lot shorter than it actually is. So, of the two, read Snow Crash, maybe leave Pontypool for later. Anyway, that's my review for this week. You have a great week, and talk to you later. Bye-bye.